It was supposed to be a calm Saturday morning when something happened that involved overreach on the part of the Briar Ridge Homeowners Association, HOA, namely its president, Belinda. I had just completed standard upkeep on our backyard pool, a privately owned, fully fenced-in compound, when I was uninvitedly approached by Belinda herself. She slipped quietly in and announced what she called big news, without so much as a knock or an announcement. She held up a clipboard like it was some sort of legal document and told me that my pool had been designated the venue for the Briar Ridge VIP Spring Social, which would be held the next Saturday. I wasn't given any notice in advance, and no vote by the community had occurred on this decision. When I reminded her that the pool is on my private property, clearly delineated by signage on our gate, she waved it aside, citing a self-written event priority mandate. This piece of paper allegedly gave the HOA the power to take over prime community spaces for events. She cited a subsection she said validated her actions. I politely informed her that this was not a public area. It is private property that I alone am responsible for, including taxes and liability. Belinda then threatened me to not be difficult with consequences for disrupting a approved HOA event. I strongly told her to leave the property, which she did, but not before assuring me she did not think the issue was closed. A formal notice was recorded, not sent via mail, on our front door the next Monday. It consisted of a 2-page reservation confirmation for the rental of our backyard pool, complete with date, time, projected guest list, and even a presumption that restrooms in our home would be provided for guests. This was not sanctioned or acceptable. With the timeline, having the party in 5 days and the following HOA meeting 3 weeks hence, I phoned the regional HOA management company with the hope of taking the situation to the next level. I was unfortunately told that the local HOA board exercised complete discretionary authority, and all I could do was bring the issue up at the next meeting, well after the planned event. Since I knew that the official channels would not get it done in time, I took the initiative. After lunch that day, I fetched a submersible pump from our garage, an item that I had originally bought for maintenance purposes in case of emergencies, and drained the pool. Belinda could either throw a party somewhere else if she wanted to. This is not the first occurrence where Belinda has misused her authority after becoming HOA president. Her time in office has been characterized by overreach, including arbitrary fees and aesthetic requirements enforced without agreement or legitimate reason. Yet this move to confiscate private property without agreement poses a bad precedent and warrants instant review by higher HOA administration. I am recording this experience not with spite, but with concern for both the rights of individual homeowners and for the general consequences of unbridled HOA authority. Sincerely, by Tuesday morning, I had made my mind up. In reply to the unauthorized reservation of my private pool as a site for a neighborhood bash, I set up for instant owner-authorized upkeep. I composed a formal notice. Early that morning, I handed a copy to Janine, one of the HOA president's most outspoken detractors, as she walked by on her daily dog walk. I played it light. "Just a little HOA housekeeping," I said with a grin. She shot me a skeptical look, but remained silent. Then I got to work. I installed the submersible pump, and by mid-morning, the pool was slowly and completely within the law, draining. The noise of the pump was strangely pleasing. My younger brother Eli came out into the yard and looked on in hushed amazement. "You're actually doing it," he said. "Yep," I said, taking a sip of coffee. "Health and safety first." By Wednesday, Belinda, the infamous HOA president by now, went a step further. Full-color glossy flyers were circulating in the neighborhood advertising an elite event, Willow Creek's premier aquatic soiree. My backyard pool had been heavily photoshopped to look like a five-star resort, but this was not a social affair. She was selling tickets to get in. As I discovered in a talk with our neighbor Hank, Belinda had sold advance VIP tickets, promising luxury catering and exclusive access, all without my consent or knowledge. At that stage, her actions crossed the threshold from overreaching into outright fraud. Saturday dawned, sunny, bright, and without a single drop of water in the pool. I had sucked it dry overnight. The patio was spotless, the deck gleaming, and a prominent sign hung on the gate. At 1:55 p.m., the luxury SUVs started pouring in. Guests, dressed up and smiling, came up with sunglasses and party grins until they noticed the parched pool and the sign. Then arrived Belinda. She appeared in full event host mode until her eyes locked onto the empty pool and the sign posted on my gate. Her expression shifted from confidence to rage in an instant. "This is vandalism," she screamed. "You drained HOA property. I'm calling the police." And she did. She phoned 911, stating that I had destroyed a sanctioned community function. When two officers arrived, Belinda ran to them as if to report a burglary. I politely handed over my property deed and a copy of the HOA charter. Officer Miller, professional and to the point, took his time studying the documents. "Ma'am," he explained, "this pool is private property. The HOA requirement does not supersede deed ownership." Belinda stuttered. "But the flyer, the event?" The officer responded, "You didn't have permission. That's, at best, a civil issue. Calling 911 over this is an abuse of emergency services." Just then, one of the partygoers, a local lawyer, pushed forward. "Wait," he said. "You're saying she sold us tickets to a party that she had no business hosting?" That broke the dam. Guests started calling for refunds. Shouts were heard. Accusations were leveled. Belinda remained speechless, clipboard abandoned, words lost. She disappeared without saying another word, leaving behind a cloud of silence and shame. By Monday morning, her resignation letter was on the HOA board. Janine's departure came shortly thereafter. There was a new committee, more earthy, intent on fundamental community needs instead of ego trips. Eli, who used to worry about these happenings, now sits again by the pool, sketching. One of his recent drawings, a caricature of Belinda holding onto a float as the water flows away from her, is mounted in our hall. So how far does a person go to protect their home, their peace, their family? As far as necessary, even if it means draining a pool. Sometimes the most satisfying sight in the world isn't crystal clear water. It's dry concrete and the sound of boundaries being enforced. Now, I'd like to hear from you. Was I justified in emptying the pool? Or should I have let the party go on and defended myself afterwards? Have you ever had to deal with a power-grabbing HOA or overreaching neighbor? Comment below. I'm reading them all. And if your piece ever finds itself under attack, just remember, a submersible pump and some backbone go a very long way.